ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. 4 years ago, it was early spring. I was sitting in the airplane, waiting to depart from Helsinki to Singapore. And I had just heard from a colleague of mine that the 5th Finnish agency working in our industry had just closed their office in Singapore. And I have just read from Kauppalehti that Swiss University IMD had published a research where they ranked that Singapore is the most competitive market in the world. As an entrepreneur, my mission was to start our marketing comms agency in Singapore. And I remember thinking, sitting there, that what the hell I'm doing? This is purely insane. The plane took off. I started to rationalize in my head and probably had a few beers. And the optimist inside me started to take over. And I started to think, why not? What could possibly go wrong? Let's do it. And that was my moment of courage at that day as an entrepreneur. With these forwards, I would like to welcome all of you to our Boardman Grow event, Courage to Grow. My name is Samppa Vilkuna, and while I'm not hosting these great events, I'm working as a founder and CEO of a global marketing comms agency, Superson. And yes, we have an office in Singapore and still going well, so good for that. I can tell that this topic is also super relevant for me, but also I can see that many of you are in the same situation. And what could be better topic during these turbulent times than talking about the courage to grow? We do have an amazing lineup today, and we are delighted that all of you have taken the time to spend the next 3 hours with us. That's a great thing. But then our responsibility is, of course, to serve you the new tricks or give you the assurance that you need to make those bold decisions in your businesses. Our job is to bring you fuel for growth, and the great thing is this is all free for you. And I would like to, at this point, thanks to our partners, PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and of course the technology industries of Finland. So round of applause for them. Thank you for making this all happening. Few words about Boardman Grow. If you are not a member yet, Boardman Grow is a network for all growth companies and entrepreneurs who have the will to share and learn from the others, like today here. Our mission is to spread the growth culture and make sure that our entrepreneurs are not left alone, so there's always somebody who you can ask. If you are not a member yet, I would urge you to apply. It's very easy through Boardman Grow website. And if you want to share your thoughts in social media today, please use the hashtag Boardman Grow. Julia here in the front row is madly writing into our Instagram and LinkedIn channels, right? Yes. Good. On top of the amazing speakers, we will have some speed networking also today. And let's try to save some time, also some questions. So prepare if you want to have some questions from our great speakers today. And you virtual spectators, we have also some 50 people there. I will be watching the comment sector for potential questions, so please submit your questions there, so we'll get those answered. Without further ado, I would like to kickstart this event. And actually one more thing, after the event we will have some time to continue the discussions and maybe enjoy a glass or two of bubbly. So please stay here with us and we can continue the discussion in the same topics. And sorry, but this is only for the people participating here at Innovation Home. And thanks, by the way, for hosting us here. It looks great. So without further ado, I would introduce our first speaker. Jyri Engeström is a true pioneer of growth mindset and waving the Finnish flag of growth mindset in Silicon Valley. And Jyri's entrepreneurial journey began with Jyri, a mobile social networking service he co-founded with Petteri Koponen and sold to Google already in 2007. He sold his second company, Ditto, a recommendation service to Groupon in 2012, and he's an early investor in many, many global startups from Oura to IceEye, and the co-founder of Yes VC with his partner Katrina Fake. In this opening keynote, Jyri will guide us through the growth mindset and give us some inspiration for what does it mean for being a growth company. So, Jyri.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me. I have spent most of the last 15 years in San Francisco. I obviously am a Finn and love being here, especially in great weather like today, and mostly spend the summers here. So I'm kind of like my partner Katarina calls folks like me the crossover Finns, the Finns that somehow are maybe suffer through America, I guess you could say. And so a part of what I think I was invited here for is because of being a crossover Finn, because it's interesting to look at the differences between Silicon Valley, which is sort of my home market, and then Finland, which is another home market, but that I look at sort of from the outside in. Because over the last, let's say, 100 investments we've made, maybe only less than 10 have been in Finland. So most of my work involves Californian startups, Silicon Valley startups. And so, and what I've noticed over the years is that there is one key difference between Finnish startup founders and American, or specifically, I would say, Silicon Valley founders. Obviously, actually very few Silicon Valley founders are American. Most of them come from somewhere else. But they sort of think in a particular way. And it's very different from the way that, when I listen, like today, for example, I've already talked to actually several Finnish entrepreneurs. And usually because I deploy capital, they are pitching, right? So I get these pitches where people are trying to get my money. And so let me explain to you how that goes and where I see the difference, right? So typically, a Finnish entrepreneur will start with an idea. For example, carbon negative bricks, okay? And then we'll begin building that product and run out of money because it turns out it's more expensive than they thought, and then call me and say, hey, can you invest? This is a great idea. And sometimes they raise money, and then they typically run out of that money, and then there's another question about, okay, what do we need to know? So versus a Silicon Valley founder who also has an idea, but that idea is very different from, it's explicitly not an idea of a product. And I think this is the counterintuitive thing for many Finns. It is an idea of a interesting market. And very explicitly, there is no commitment to any kind of product at all. I'll give you some examples of founders we've invested in. For example, founder who noticed that a lot of kids nowadays don't identify as boys or girls. They're non-binary, right? Like, I have 3 teenagers, so I don't know if you guys do, but of course, it's not just teenagers, but it's a little bit of a trend, okay? What are the major global brands for people who identify as non-binary? Is anybody? Yes, there are none, right? So interesting. And yet, if you look at statistics, or like some of my peers, investors who run, who basically use AI and machine learning and aggressively focus only on this way of investing, which, by the way, is a very common way of investing in the Valley, is you can see mentions of non-binariness, whatever you want to call it, pronouns. I'm sure all of you have read the articles about it. It's sort of, it's been going up, 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 right? On Reddit, on Instagram, on TikTok, on all these social media that savvy VCs track. So what do? We're like, interesting, we'll invest. There's no idea what products. So some examples of products that they tried were tampons for men. It turns out all tampons are like pink, you know? But if you identify as a guy, or definitely not as female, then do you want pink tampons? No. You want like black tampons or whatever, like different colored tampons, right? So they've tried maybe several dozen different products, and then they ended up discovering something that has really taken off in a big way and is selling well, and you know, the company is on a nice growth path. Who knows what will become of it? It's called For Them, by the way, so it's like not for him, not for her, it's for them. And it's an example of a way of starting a company that's typical of Silicon Valley, where what you do is you identify. I'll give you another example, a company we actually started, or an associate, a young investor who worked on our team went ahead and started himself, and we invested in it, and other people have invested in it. It's makes products and services for delivery drivers. So in Finland, it would be like the Volt drivers, Volttikuskit, right? Again, what are the key brands for Volt drivers? There are none, right? Maybe Volt, but could you, maybe they want something else. Because you look at the stats, right, and you can see a lot of them around, right? I'm sure everyone, like, I was just walking here and I saw two. Actually, I counted because I knew I was going to talk about it. It's like, okay, I saw two from Kampin Keskus to here, so it's like 1.5 blocks. So they are around. So, in fact, there are millions of them if you look globally. So, arguably, it's beginning to be a sizable market. And they're not really employees, as we know. They're not really entrepreneurs. There's something in between. And they're also often these groups initially are despised by existing society in some way. They're at the very lowest level of entrepreneurs or whatever, right? But then over time, maybe they will acquire power. Maybe they will become more affluent. Maybe it will become a major market. And so I'm just noting this because I'm going to talk about a couple of other points as the beginning of when you're thinking about entrepreneurship and what it means, which I think is like a fundamental difference. And somehow it's the Silicon Valley way of thinking. And it's not, it's a different way here. And it's, you know, I'm thinking it's probably gonna change, but it's easier it's better tailored for this current financing ecosystem that I represent as a venture capital firm that needs to deploy capital and allocate capital into new ideas. If I have to make a decision, as I do every Monday in our partner meeting, between which of the candidate entrepreneurs do we finance? If I have a person who says, I have this wonderful product, carbon negative bricks or whatever, obviously that's a great idea. I mean, it sounds great, but I have no demand. And then I have this other person who says, demand is going through the roof. I've run all these ads on TikTok. I have 10,000 people who've signed up on my landing page website. I haven't given a single thought to how I'm actually going to build a product. But I think I'm going to need $5 million. Can you give me the money so I can go build it? Because they want it. They've actually already prepaid for it. Or some of them have, ideally. Which am I going to fund? I'm probably going to fund the person who shows traction, who has demand. Because I'm just going to believe that they can figure out how to deliver because I can give them money, the customers can give them money. There's somebody who wants this to be real in the world, right? And so that's the first point. It's thinking about entrepreneurship or growth, whatever you want to call it, as an exercise in brilliant allocation of capital, rather than thinking about it as, and I don't even know what to call it, but this like weird practice where you're like in a garage or whatever. I don't even know what it is. Finns don't have garages. It's a sauna, maybe? And you're like banging together something. It's like this, and then suddenly, people are supposed to like discover it and love you, right? It's hard. It's really hard that way. And I will answer your question in just a moment. Am I out of time already? Shit. Okay, sorry, guys. All right, I still have a few more points. Bear with me here. 5 minutes, damn. Okay, I'll be fast. Next point. Now that if you're in this mindset, something else that's wonderful happens. Because now, suddenly, you're thinking about everything as an investor would, as an exercise in allocating capital. And so, for example, just recently I had 3 medical students here come to me, and they were pitching, as is usual in my life. And they wanted to make a portal for reserving appointments to go see a doctor. So it's like you have Terveystalo or Mehiläinen or whatever. What's the third one? Ava. And then you have to go in each one, but they just wanted to make one where you could see like all the available appointment times and all of them, right? But then if you look at it from like the perspective of an investor, like, yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, these exist in other countries. Why isn't there one in Finland? There's another company, it's called Timma, that makes this exact thing, but for like hair salons and massages and all kinds of wellness services. So not doctor appointments, but pretty close. Yeah, it looks like they're, doing okay, a couple of million in revenue and growth and nice. Why is it that they're not doing that? Is their service good? I asked them, they said, yes, it's actually quite a good service. So then now you're like, okay, well, let's think, if you're thinking about this as an investor, what you want to think is like, okay, so maybe this is a good idea. Now the next question is, who is the winning person, most likely person to win when they begin making this? Because as an investor, you're trying to pick the winner, right? Usually there's competition. And if you're a founder or an entrepreneur with an idea, maybe you can think this way too. Because then you'll discover that you'll look around and be like, maybe this Timma should just expand to doctor appointments. Maybe it's already on their roadmap because they seem to be doing a good job with hair salons and massages. Maybe I should go work there and get some equity in that company. Maybe I should advise them, start a new business line there, and that'll be the winner. Or maybe they really, like their management doesn't really believe in this, but this is clearly a big opportunity. So maybe I should just go to talk to a buyout fund. Maybe I should just buy Timma, fire whoever runs Timma, and go and run it myself and do this. Because that way I can multiply their valuation by 5x in a year and a half. That actually might be a much easier pitch to an investor than going and claiming that, oh, I'm going to start this portal and I'm a medical student. And it's, if you guys follow me, because investors are thinking about allocating capital. And it's sometimes easier to raise 20 million euros or 100 million euros than it is to raise 2 million euros. Because when you have an idea that makes sense for a capital allocator, they're going to take it seriously. And if you're thinking about things from an open mindset like this, actually what you're looking at personally also is you just want equity. You want to be an owner in the winner. It doesn't matter if you start a company, if you go work for a company, if you just advise a company, maybe you invest your own angel investment money into it, if that's the only way to get into it. Maybe you buy it and pivot it. These are all options that are available to you as an entrepreneur. It's not just that you always have to start a company and OY and then be the CEO and like try to raise capital for it, and that's not the only path. So it liberates you in this wonderful way to see opportunity in the world, and the world becomes a very friendly place. So the way I operate, and I know I'm running out of time, but I refuse to step off the stage, is what's happened over the last 4 or 5 days? Well, Hamas attacked Israel with rockets, for example. So a terrible thing. Bunch of kids were taken hostage, bunch of people were killed, and obviously, there's multiple depending on who you talk to, who's to blame. Obviously Israel, has blood on their hands as well from multiple, over the last since Israel was basically founded, and there's a lot of stuff there. But you can look at that and be like, that's a shitty thing. People are getting killed, or the Ukraine. But then you can also think like, is there something I can do about this? Is there any opportunity here? So it's like, Iron Dome. It's like they've blocked like 80% of the rockets coming in, but Iron Dome is kind of great, but it's also like 10-year-old technology. Maybe you should just build like a Nordic dome here. What if at some point somebody starts shooting rockets at us from across the border? Wouldn't that be kind of interesting? It would be cool if we had like a modern Iron Dome that could block all of the rockets that were being shot at us. So I think about that like all the fucking time. So I'm like on Telegram chats with the people that are building the drones, that are taking down the drones, or the lasers. I'm like, well, it's kind of expensive. Like I counted it, and like Israel spends like almost $100,000 per each interceptor that they shoot to take down a rocket that costs Hamas about $800. That math just doesn't work for Israel, even though they're rich. At some point, they're just going to run out of rockets or interceptors. So, and that's also happening in Ukraine. It costs much more to shoot down a drone or an inbound rocket than it does to launch it. So the defenders are always at a disadvantage. But what if they had lasers? Like, they wouldn't run out of supply. It would just cost them electricity, and it would be like an infinite ammo, right? So maybe we could just build lasers, right? So I'm just giving you some examples of ways that I think, if you start thinking very openly, whenever there's a problem, somewhere like, COVID. Like I started a company that first we made tests because nobody could access COVID tests, then vaccines. Became a big company, last year did like, I don't know, 54 million in revenue. Now they do all kinds of other diagnostics. Obviously COVID's luckily not a huge deal anymore, but COVID kind of got it started. So oftentimes when there's some kind of a crisis or a problem in the world, you can also just flip that into an opportunity. And sometimes it just means having to buy another company or redirecting something else. But I count all of these as modes of entrepreneurship that I just invite. I don't see why it has to be like a Silicon Valley privilege to think this way. I think anybody who's interested in growth would probably find it helpful to allow themselves to practice these exercises, because it's just about what's the most effective way of allocating capital to solve this interesting problem right now. Last bit, wrapping up here. When you begin to think this way, and when you also begin to practice this, you will inevitably become involved in multiple companies. And indeed, the best entrepreneurs are always also investors in a lot of companies, especially in the Valley. And this is another difference between, you can see like Mickey Kuusi now. I have this, debate, I think, with Mickey, like every year I kick his ass. Like, what the fuck, why are you just running Volt? Brilliant guy. Start something else, man. You've been running it for like 10 years or more already. How many companies has Elon Musk got now? 8, right? There's like Neuralink, Tesla, SpaceX, Boring Company. He's got the new X thing he's got Twitter, obviously, which is now X. And this is actually the norm. All of our most successful portfolio companies are parallel entrepreneurs who actually have multiple companies simultaneously. It used to be that there was this thing of like serial entrepreneurship. It's like sarjayrittäjä, which is like, it's kind of like, it's like you're on your third husband or your third wife, and it's like, rock on. How am I going to keep that up? And it's even worse if you think about being parallel. But But it's not the same. And it's okay. So go ahead and do it. Why waste a brilliant mind who is practiced in this way of thinking? Why restrict them to only focus on one thing at once when they might have multiple ideas? And if they practice that well, the job of a CEO, it's only got 3 jobs. I keep saying this to our CEOs. Communicate the vision, raise the financing, hire the best people. You can go home, pick up your kid early from Tarha. You know? It's like not even 4 p.m. yet, and you're like there. It's like, top dad or top mom, 15:30, I'm here to pick you up, kiddo. It's because I already did my 3 Jennings. You know, my company's funded. I told them what to do, and I hired the best people. Guess what? They don't need me. If I did my job, if I hired the best people, everybody there knows how to do everything else better than I could. So why don't I just get the hell out of their way? It ends up that founders oftentimes spend most of their time doing everything else except those 3 things. Understand sometimes you have to start from somewhere, and you have to, you know, go buy the toilet paper and make sure that, you know, I did that. But if you want to scale and grow like we're supposed to be talking about here, you got to focus on those 3 things. And then guess what? If you did them well, growth will just follow. So parallel entrepreneurship, thinking about, you know, entrepreneurship as investors do, as just a practice of brilliant allocation of capital. And remembering that when you think about an idea, thinking about an idea that is an idea about a market that's maybe new, that other people haven't noticed yet, is oftentimes a more powerful idea than an idea of a brilliant product. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jyri. Very good. We had a time for one question. There was one question, right?
Yeah, Jone from Jyri. I deal in sales outsourcing, and I've been... Yeah, thanks. I've been around the States, as you probably hear from my accent, which I've developed. And I really concur with the difference that you pointed out. And one thing that I see in dealing with both companies from Finland and from the US is that people from the US think that they have to get money and they don't care where it comes from. Whereas we Finns tend to fall in love with our products and be very product focused. And this, you know, there are obviously ethical questions, especially with Finns, with regards to reacting to crises and stuff like that. So I was wondering, just as a general question, if you had any principles for Finnish founders to implement that more of, you know, a United States type thinking of, I don't care where the money comes from as long as it comes in great volumes.
I don't know, man. I think I just kind of try to answer that question. It's, you know, and also, you know, Finns are better than Americans. Rock on, Finland. Go sauna. We don't need to always copy the U.S. But I think there's some helpful things here. You know, the main thing is when you begin to think about the world as an investor, it just becomes a really like a place of abundance. Even things that are bad, you can fight. And then that's a good, oftentimes actually like a great way of raising capital because people want you to succeed, right? But the thing is, I think what we got to learn, and I think this is the main thing that I would maybe just take as a takeaway here, is there's a whole set of tools and methods of experimenting with different product ideas and basically running ads, trying to see what gets traction, what people get interested in, that you can do very, very, very cheaply without committing to any single idea. And I still very rarely see Finnish entrepreneurs practice this, like seriously practice it. So I would take that as just one thing that, like, if, I don't know, this is like people who probably should be professors at Aalto rather than studying at Aalto. But, you know, like if I talk to my 16-year-old kid right now and they want to build something like a company or whatever, that's what I would say is just go try out different things and see what gets traction rather than betting all of your money on one thing, right? Before you know, because it's so easy and it's kind of fun. And you learn as you do that, because then you end up, basically finding other people that have great suggestions for you, and it just turns into like a self-fulfilling prophecy, at least in my experience. And it definitely wasn't the way I started.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you. That was true parallel entrepreneurship. Hey, thank you, Jyri. Next speaker we will have is Mr. Himatri Majumdar. Himatri is the chief executive and the co-founder of Semicon. He's also the operational lead of the company, and he focuses on building global collaboration and strategic partnership with research groups and companies. His goal is to make semicon processors the industry standard for semiconductor-based quantum processors. That's a lot of asks for even me to understand what does it mean, but soon we will hear about it. Himatri is interviewed by Mr. Teemu Polo from the Finnish technology industries, where he works as the head of entrepreneurship and SMEs. Welcome, Himatri and Teemu. Innovations and growth as growth drivers.
I think we would actually all maybe thanks for the previous speaker, because I think there would be a lot to digest about the previous one, but maybe you need to do it in parallel in order to get going. So the theme for today is courage to grow. How brave do we feel today?
Well, I feel great, brave every day, even in that weather.
Yeah, I think you had a very interesting kind of background, something that I've been following up on startup stuff for quite a few time, many years, and this kind of research. You have a very strong research background. Can you elaborate? How did you end up being a startup entrepreneur?
Sure. Thanks. Great to be here. Great to meet you all. It was a moment of decision-making in my life where I tried to put myself out of my comfort zone. So just to give you a quick outlook, I did my PhD in applied physics from 2004. I did active research. I was a docent at a university, did teaching, did research, was a senior scientist at VTT until 2015. So that was my history. And then started my second life, where I moved from science to sales. So I actively took myself out of science and put it into sales because of one thing that was bugging me. And that was, how is research that I do makes any sense to people? And why should I and anybody keep doing that? And that was the driver for me to go out there, see what I can do, and prove that things that are done in research labs or research surroundings can actually have benefit for people.
I think, dear audience, you just missed an opportunity for a round of applause. There was a researcher that ended up in sales. I think that's... So it's a good start for entrepreneur from getting a kind of fact straight, right? That's the research part, I think, and then learning the business. I think that must have been some kind of silo to go through, but say abandoning the kind of comfort zone you mentioned about that. So I imagine that VTT is pretty strong kind of zone of comfort in a sense that leaping forward for you then looking at the business might have been one decision, but how did you attract everybody else?
Yeah, that was harder. So just to give you a quick hint of what we are doing and where we got started, I think you probably have a head start from the news yesterday when Mr. President was there inaugurating the newest quantum computer. And in the images that you see, you can see a huge cylinder, right? So that's how a quantum computer looks like. It's almost half room filled of machine. And if you open it, you see a very shiny chandelier. And all that thing does is basically cool the things down. So it's a fridge. It's a glorified fridge.
Complicated fridge.
Exactly. So when I started, I was a program manager for quantum tech at VTT until early this year. And when I was looking at the things that are developing, the question that I asked myself is, this has happened before. And this happened in 1950s. So if you look at computers, when it started, it was a room filled of computer. But we are not there anymore. We revolutionized it with the ICs, or integrated circuit, the chips that we call nowadays. So my question was, when are we having the quantum IC moment? When are we going to see the integrated circuits in quantum? And that took me to the research professor asking him, where are you guys on that? And the research team leader. And they told me, oh, we are actually doing it. And then my question was, why the heck are you still here? So that was like the starting point of discussion. And it came to the point where obvious question came, if you are so passionate about it, why don't you do it? And then my response was, yes, I would if you come with me. So that was the challenge for each other, which I was lucky because they were actually very pumped to do this as well.
Oh, that's a cool. So you had a kind of all the facts straight. You were diving into business. You were learning about that, and then even attracting the team. I think most of the audience knows that that's the tricky part. The previous speaker was just hiring the best people, but that's not always so easy.
It's still not easy. I mean, we were 4, we are 8, we are struggling to get the right people. That's still
anybody from the audience? So this is a recruitment opportunity. So, okay, but you must have had some help over the way. So I know that VTT has some tools, and then you have some this capital allocators or money sellers or these guys as well.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, it was not possible if we didn't get help. So we were very lucky that, like Jyri was mentioning, you sell the dream, and we sold the dream. So we actually managed to get the idea through that what we want to do is make quantum computers scalable, to make them on a level of a benchtop. How do we do it? Well, there are hundreds and thousands of problems there, but that we tackle later. But this is the dream. This is the moonshot that we want to go for. And in that sense, we were very fortunate that our earliest investor was hooked. And I think that was a pivot that we needed very badly. And why it was important, just to elaborate on that, is many of us think we can spend time on getting VCs. And I think that's not good. Because if you cannot sell the idea early, that means your idea starts stagnating. And that is not a good thing to happen to your company or plans. And for us, it was very important as well, because as a company, we knew that others were thinking of this as well. It's impossible that nobody else is thinking of it. So we wanted to be there first, grab hold of that rhetoric and own it. And that was the whole plan for us to get quickly into the market. And in that sense, we were lucky to get there. And believe it or not, now there are 4 or 5 European companies basically tagging along. I mean, you have heard the phrase, copying is the highest form of, what is it called? Flattery, yes, thank you. So we are flattered. So they are towing our line, basically. But we were there first, so that was a huge, huge thing. And VTT, investors, everybody were very helpful in that.
But you are in a very much a global race.
We are.
And a small team. So how do you build up the courage going forward? So what kind of steps do you foresee that is there kind of a way to kind of pump more energy into it and win the others?
The biggest advantage we have in that sense is not a good advantage, but it's an advantage. There are not too many people who understand these things. So the people that we hire are probably the hand-counted people that can actually do it. So that's the way you kill the competition as well. And they are interested in working with us, which gives us the courage to do it even more.
Exactly. As a leader, you then are able to also show example and give opportunities to work on the topics, as Jyri actually mentioned. If somebody wants to be in the world best computing company of the future, then the guy to reach out is right here. So how about then? How did you know that? What is the exact moment? Because I think the struggle always is that, okay, so if you do something too early, that's a bit tricky. Now on again, starting something now would be a bit more tricky, especially thinking about this leadership. So how did you figure out what is the exact moment to take the leap?
That's a very good question, because this was one of the first questions we asked ourselves as a team, that what would be a good time when we do it? And the response that we got from ourselves was now, because hardware, we do hardware. We build devices and things that need time to evolve. And for every such technology, there is a window of opportunity. You can see the AI war happening right now, right? So NVIDIA fighting with everybody. Everybody wants to follow and outscale NVIDIA. So it's the same thing with quantum. So it's a race. And if you are not there at the right time in the right place, you are missing the window of opportunity. So that's sort of defined when we fully commit and get going. So that was easy in that sense.
So it's about this evolution of the world's best fridges.
No, well, that's one comment or one thing that we don't like is evolution. We want revolution. So evolution is something that everybody does, and we want to do revolution. So
yeah, I think that's
quantum.
Something,
yeah, exactly.
Quantum way.
Exactly.
In a sense, yes, indeed. I think when we had an earlier discussion, you were referring that we were wondering about this business versus innovation. Is business driving innovation or business requiring innovation?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I borrowed a sort of sentence from that you know about that. Culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? So I borrow it and say that business eats innovation for breakfast. And it's in a good and not so good way. So like Jyri was saying, if you are having innovation and you want to turn it into business, the business will eat you alive. It will not happen. So you have to start from the business point of view. Where do you see the money coming from? Where do you see that you are going to be in the field where the big boys are? Why would they care? Why would they not kill you? And all these things. So that's how we see it, that it's business first, and then innovation sort of strengthens it. But it's the other way around as well. So breakfast is the most important meal in your day. So you have to have a good breakfast. So innovation is that good breakfast. If businesses don't adapt to innovation, they fail. So innovation is necessary from that perspective as well, that we have to have the innovation in the core of it, but don't get it as the driving point, because that sort of causes problems.
I think that's very much connected to the revolutionary way of or the approaches as well. I think that's a pretty nice learning curve already there. But and I think we are roughly in time. So what kind of advice would you have for you had a very specific spin-off experience from VTT. But I think that kind of spin-off opportunities are everywhere, as pointed out by Jyri. You just need to imagine and raise some capital and buy something and redirect. Your way was maybe more kind of say fluent. But what kind of advice would you have for the audience there?
Well. I can share with you my experience. I don't think I'm in a position to advise yet. But what I can say, and I agree with Jyri as well in that sense, is when we started the business, I think it's important to think global. You cannot think local because that's not a scalable business. And at some point of time, you will reach a plateau, which is, well, a plateau. So it's very, very important to think global, how you can disrupt the global sort of business in that sense. And the second thing was basically that aspect of innovation and business. I think it's important, and we are kind of in a niche area in that sense. Not every business has to be driven or has to have an innovation in the core. There is innovation, but it's a different kind of innovation. So that needs to be understood in the business. And the third thing I think is very important for me personally is courage in the sense that there are two things. You can have either comfort or you can have courage. And if you are in a comfort, I think you cannot say you are having courage. So it's for me a binary kind of situation. So what I would say is have the comfort, but have the hunger as well. You have heard the saying again that stay hungry, stay foolish. It's not for no reason. That is actually true. When you're hungry, physically hungry, you are the sharpest in your brain. So you have to have that hunger and that sort of drives when you get other people or other partners, investors, innovators on board, because when they see that you are hungry and you really, really want to do it, they get excited as well. And this transference of excitement is very, very necessary, because if you don't buy your ideas or your plan, nobody else buys it.
And now that you have a team around you, then that's kind of supporting and nurturing the team idea of taking over the world.
Exactly.
Well, that's a lot to digest. So thank you and good luck with your venture.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Teemu and Himatri. Is there any questions from the audience for Himatri? If not, we go forward. Thank you. All right, our next speaker is Minna Ruusuvuori. Minna has led sales and marketing organizations in tech, always aiming to help businesses to thrive. Drawing from her experiences, she podcasts, writes, speaks about how great leadership and genuine human connections can make a difference. She has founded a ultra-famous career podcast, Lähtijät. You should go and listen to that, and will be a commercial director in to be announced soon. So probably we'll hear some news today where she will be heading. Don't know yet. She's actually replacing Katriina Grönqvist from the Great Place to Work, who had to stay at home, unfortunately, due to COVID. If she can, she's probably watching us through Zoom. So get well, Katriina, soon. We'll miss you here. Minna is interviewed by Timo-Pekka Uotila from PwC. Timo-Pekka is a head of reward services and is probably the best person to talk about how to motivate people, right? So, stage is yours.
All right. We have roughly 20 minutes to talk about one of my favorite and kind of really favorite topics that I'm really passionate about. And I understood that, Minna, you are also.
I think I'm sort of very deep in diving there with the leadership. Absolutely love it.
Exactly. So if we start from the big picture, we are facing an economic downturn, but still, even now, there is a need to invest in employees, to look forward, look sources to renew companies, and to motivate and retain talented employees. So I have an easy question for you as a starter. In your opinion, what are the main challenges that growth companies face right now, and how can we tackle those challenges?
I think, in my opinion, it's not just the growth companies that are facing the problem of losing people. As we all know, people are leaving. We, as Lähtijät, we did a survey last spring, and it says that 70% of your employees are thinking of leaving. It's a lot. I always say, because my background is in sales and marketing, how would you feel if 70% of your customers would be thinking of leaving you? That would be quite terrible. So I think that's the thing that we are facing. We are not serious enough about people and how to support them. So what we should do is, what Jyri actually mentioned at the beginning, is that we should have a clear vision. Where are we heading? And we should sort of get people engaged to that vision. But then we should also support them to find a way that we actually are taking all the hassle away, and we are focusing all our actions toward that vision. And that way we are actually creating energy and taking people towards that vision. But we also have to have environment that is supporting people, so they are able to sort of bring their best every day, that they are trusted, they are valued, and they are supported. And that's something that we as leaders should do.
Yeah. Let's talk about a little bit about trust and environment. We already know that trust is one of the defining factors in supporting culture in companies. How do you take care of trust and create trust between the people?
Well, that's a very easy question. I think it's all comes to the fact that promise, when you give promises, keep the promises. We all know that the trust is the fundamental thing of each and one of us, because we're all people. So basically, when we as leaders are building that vision where we are going to, and we are expecting people to work towards that, let's give them space and let them do it as well. Because I think quite often we give those promises that that's the vision where we're heading to. Then there comes one strategic day when we are deciding that no, we are actually turning the curve, and the people are not even knowing where they are. When we have values in the company, let's live by the values. That's actually one of the biggest things when people leave the companies, is that we have the values, outspoken values, but we are not living them. When there is a hard decisions to make, we actually, the first thing what we actually lose are the values. But that's actually the day when the trust is being built, that you are also willing to live
Yes.
like you speak.
Yeah. And we also know that leadership plays a great role in that. If we talk about fostering culture and performance, sometimes innovation culture, the space to fail in the companies, for instance, what can team leaders do to foster that kind of culture?
Well, we all know that the innovation is not living in an environment where there is no trust, when there is no psychological safety. So it all comes for the fact that you have to be there for the people. It's actually quite simple. I always call it like a humanly demanding leadership. So we basically are combining the soft skills and the hard skills together. When you usually talk about hard skills, it's the things that we do, it's the figures, it's the substance that we have. But I actually want to turn this around. The hard skills are the human factors. Exactly. How do we actually face the people? How can we look at them in the eye and ask, how are you doing today? How are you feeling? What is the situation? How can I help you? How can I support you? So that is actually the way to create that kind of an environment where you are able to innovate, where you're able to fail, where you're able to be yourself.
Yeah.
And I can tell that there's not that many companies that can do it. And the ones who can actually do it, they are the ones who will succeed.
Yeah. And in my mind, this is not rocket science. Like this is easy. But why it is so hard to implement? Why some companies struggle implementing this kind of a culture of trust and support?
Especially in Finland, I think we are engineers. So it's easy to be with those things. It's easy to be with the products. It's easy to be with the innovations. But when we are sitting down with people, that's the difficult part. It's quite difficult actually to sit down and concentrate to people. I actually was discussing last week with one huge company who said that they have team leaders who rather do the projects and are sort of thinking that the leadership, or they actually are performing management, but that they think that that's not real work. Talking with people is not real work. Spending time with them, talking how they feel, how they can perform, how can I support you, that's not work. The substance, the project, that's the work. So I think this is the fundamental issue that we already have in our mindset. How can we actually help managers to become leaders and start to think that the leadership position is actually profession itself? And one of the problems is that people don't get enough time for it. So then we are actually looking for the top management, the boards, the owners, because your leadership looks like who you are, and how do you value the leadership factors as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. The company is often the reflection of its top managers. If we talk a little bit more about the innovation culture and the leadership, today we have heard already that innovation, it needs, you need to test prototypes, and it means that sometimes you fail. from my perspective, from the reward perspective, it's not sometimes things that we kind of build our reward system to support to. So is there some advice that you could give to companies that would like to foster innovation culture at the same time, but at the same time to be profitable?
Well, I think it all starts from the people. I think we are coming for the very fundamental things, that you have to be able to create that kind of environment where you really are able to innovate, but also fail fast. And we are coming back to that psychological safety and the way you're leading people as well. Because if we are saying that, yes, our values are that kind of that we can actually create something new, but we can also say that this wasn't a good idea, let's put it away. Then it also means that people have to be able to sort of come forward with it. That's okay. This innovation, it seemed like a good one, but there is not. For example, we're talking about demand. There's no demand for it, so let's put it away. So we have to be able to kill our darlings, but it has to come from the top management, from the owners as well, to be able to do that. And I also know that it's not always it's not that easy to kill those darlings, and it's not easy to hear somebody saying that this wasn't that good innovation. But as a leader, you have to be also very open-minded, and you actually have to be observer. You are not the one who has all the information. You are not the one who has all the answers. And I think that's the most difficult part, especially for the founders who have the darling there, to step back and say that, hey, I actually don't have the answers, but I have these best people, like you also mentioned, to do it and take it forward.
Yeah. And you mentioned the boards and like the need also to take these topics into the discussions of the boards. Is there something that you would like to elaborate this a little bit more?
Absolutely. It's actually coming for the hard and soft skills. We're coming back to Finland and engineering culture. If we look at the boards, there's a lot of people with substance information and knowledge and expertise. There's a lot of finance and figures. But where do we have those soft, hard skills? So where do we have those human factors and who understand about the leadership, the human factor, the people factor, the customer factor, and so on? So I think one of the main things is that we need to get that kind of people on the boards who are actually understanding the soft side of it, and can help people to or the companies to grow into that and create better leadership.
Yeah, exactly. Often it comes down to the numbers. Is there any way to kind of quantify the leadership aspect of the kind of companies?
Well, this is a good question. I tell you a secret. Oh, it's not a secret, coming out tomorrow. I resigned yesterday because the numbers are coming first, not the people.
Exactly.
That was my reason to leave. And I believe that it goes another way around. People come first. When you lead well with your great people, you have that vision where you're taking them or help them to get there and help to build up that great company. That is actually when the figures are happening, not another way around. So I think that's one of the most important things to remember.
Yeah. I think we have some time still left. What kind of, if you think about how these numbers are kind of measuring up, so when we design, for instance, reward systems for the companies. We think about people, we think about processes, we think about customers, and then there is the numbers, like the financial figures. Is there a way to kind of systematize the leadership in companies?
I think there is, because you get what you measure. So I think there should be so much more factors on that leadership culture. And if I take my three takeaways, actually, I think the figures are behind this. I think it all starts from there, that when you have the values, we should somehow to be able to measure or see how the values are happening in the real life. Because one of the biggest things why people are not happy or they are not creating that trust towards companies are because the companies are not true to themselves. Yeah. As you probably been experienced, you have been working in a company that says that they are something, but when it comes to real life, they are something else. Yeah. So be the one that you say you are, and I think that's the one good start for the things. And then the other thing is that there is no way around the leadership. You have to be able to perform it, and you can actually measure it. Ask people, measure every year at least how people feel about the people, and then help the leaders to create their skills, help them to get better. So put effort on that because that will pay back. And then definitely, which is difficult to measure, the soft skills. So I actually want to, like I said earlier, I want to turn it around. So the soft skills are the hard skills, and find the way to measure that with the happiness of the people that you're working with, because I guarantee that there is a link for the financial results and those numbers on the top bottom.
Yeah, exactly, and I totally agree with that. Is there any kind of a concluding thought that you would like to say? If you think about, we have board members in our audience, is it something that you would like to say to them when it comes to leadership?
I would say that the one thing that I always say that companies look like they owners, they board members, and they leaders, and think how you want to see your company looking like. So basically, support the leadership, support the leaders to be able to have time to face the people, to spend time with the people, help them grow. Because when you do that, the people help you to grow the company and build that success. But you have to start it from the top. It doesn't come from the bottom. Yeah.
I think these are brilliant words to conclude this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minna. Any questions from the audience? There we have many questions. We'll give a mic so all our Zoom listeners can hear too.
Thank you, Minna. I'm Elina Liehu from Best Talent Platform, and we are actually old colleagues. Few years back.
25 years back.
No, don't say that. No, it's not 25, it's 23, but anyway.
23.
But
and the question is?
The question is, as everywhere, the real talents are very short today. And we heard it today also, like, the more specific it comes, more short we are in talents. In US, we do know that great number of the people working in the companies are today freelancers and working in like these strategic level positions. Some say that it's about 50% in some companies like Google and so on. We're getting there also in Europe. We are very, very early kind of stages in Finland. But how do you think that this would change the leadership of the companies when actually the talents are really picking to which company they do in the project, which company they select that they will go and give their time to?
That's a good question, and I actually had a very good discussion in Nordic Business Forum about one company who are providing interim leadership positions, and they said actually that one of the reasons why people, the freelancers, want to work that way is they want to get away from the hassle that there is, all that kohina that happens in the companies, because there's no clear way of getting wherever you want to go. But it definitely will change it, because the thing is that when that interim is coming to work and they have some kind of a goal, they are sort of working for that goal. And I think it's even more important to help them to gain the values and understand the values and how we're working with those values within that position. But I think also they are choosing where they want to work with. So I think the brand, the culture, everything where you're coming with that position as that sort of an outsider, I think they can pick and choose as well. So it's not just somebody you can buy and let them do it. But it definitely will change the way we are doing things in Europe as well.
Good. There was another question. We have a little time.
Hello, Taru Ervio from Springwest. Thank you very much for a very insightful interview. I don't know if I have a question. I at least wanted to congratulate you from resigning from your job, as you are a true example of living according to your values and living with courage, and that's what we all should be doing. And actually my question is, how could we share that courage in our organizations to live according to the values and question those given values if they don't match the ones actually living in the organization?
Very good.
That is a very difficult question, actually, because I don't think there's not many companies who are encouraging to leave if the values do not match. I think it starts before you are actually recruiting somebody, that you have to really present that who you are as a company, what kind of values you have, and how do you actually outlive them in every single day. But you also have to accept that there is the koeaika, the trial period, and that really is a trial period for the person who's working for the company as well. It's not just something that the person who's coming and is sitting there 6 months waiting that, okay, what is going to happen to me? But it actually goes another way around. But we are actually coming for the first point that be true to yourself as a company. Tell who you are, and live those words in every single day on the real life, and help the people to engage there as well. But I think this is a trend that we will see more, because now we are actually conducting another survey about the leadership that is coming out next spring, and we have been interviewing under 35-year-olds. And the world is totally different. So the way to engage those people, you really have to be true to yourself, and the way they're thinking, it's something that they provide you, not that the company is providing something to them. So, but for your question, it starts way before the person is coming in. And but companies also have to understand that people are also doing their due diligence when they are looking for the jobs. So they are interviewing a lot of people who used to work for you, who know somebody who used to work for you, and so on, because nobody wants to have those jumps in and jumps out, because it's quite tiring as well. But I'm also doing it because now when Jyri mentioned about the parallel entrepreneurship, Lahtias is actually just starting a new company that is coming out on Sunday, probably, if the website is ready. And then we are starting another one, so there will be 3 companies under Lahtiat end of this year.
And you will be interviewing yourself, right?
Yeah.
Hey, we had some other questions, but probably Minna will stay with us. So if you have time to just to have another questions with the other ones, so we can continue the program. Thank you. All right, and the next we will have the introduction of our sparring group. So part of the Boardman Grow network, we have been organizing together with our partners, PwC and Technology Industries of Finland, sparring groups around different topics. And these are actually super useful for entrepreneurs to jump into confidential roundtable discussions around pre-chosen topics. And Boardman partner Rasmus Nyberg will join the stage, and he will open more about the sparring group. So thanks, Rasmus.
Thank you. How in time do I need to do this? In 30 seconds?
You're doing really well, thank you.
Yes, my name is Rasmus Nyberg. I currently work at Bravedo as head of product, and I spend most of my time sparring with growth companies about their product and how to better sort of grow, both in a technical sense and in a sort of managerial strategic sense. And one of the things that we do there, and that we also do at Boardman Grow all the time is, or perhaps we can even go to the history. The reason Boardman Grow started to exist was a group of people that were growth entrepreneurs, and they needed a place where they could talk with like-minded people. So as an entrepreneur, you might not be able to share your innermost thoughts with partners, with employees, with investors, but you might want to sort of just spill your guts and get some feedback around that. So that was the birth of Boardman Grow. And we are doing exactly the same thing in these sparring groups. So we have 8 to 12 people who come together once per quarter or once per 2 months around a subject. And that subject is usually, as something like you can see here, so okay, how do we do growth? Because we are all in this SaaS business. So what have you learned since last time? What can we learn from each other? And then there's a sort of a moderator, somebody that just pulls the thoughts together. And if we want to have an external speaker, we'll just sort of pull that from the network. So that is the core of what these sparring groups are about. That like-minded people in the same situation sparring about a larger subject. So these are some of the groups that have been and are currently running. I used to have one of these that was growth or internationalization with B2B SaaS. Those were great groups, and they're still communicating, the guys who were there. We met around 2 times per quarter, yeah? And the discussions were very wide-ranging. We talked product, we talked pricing, we talked about how to put together your board, whether or not to establish a new business or a new office, or just sort of hire somebody if you want to do internationalization. So we talked about all these kinds of subjects, and we had people from different companies come in and give us sort of pointers. We had PVC come in and give us pointers about how to sort of set up stuff and how to think about it from a tax point of view. Very practical, very down to earth, and very useful for the entrepreneurs. And now we are starting 2 more. So 2 of these are starting now as we speak. We have a few seats available. So one is talking about how can we sort of create real business out of the green transition. And the other one is talking about the same thing that my groups were talking about. So you have a B2B SaaS company, how can you grow and internationalize that? So if any of you guys are interested in these kinds of subjects, please, we will have a link in the feedback form that you will get after the presentations that you can use to sign up. Or if you have any ideas for new groups or any of the other ones that were already there, if you're interested in those, please send us a message and we'll hook you up. Thank you.
Okay, the climax of the day. So the last but not least, you look terrified. So the last session will be with Anna-Leena Rai from Skipperi. Skipperi is like an Airbnb for boats. Very, very nice innovation. I love it. She will join me here on stage to talk about how the leap of faith is done in real life. Product market fit, company culture, hiring and firing. And Anna-Leena is also co-founder and head of international growth at Skipperi. And the company is already operating in over 6 countries. And the growth seems to be the real engine towards the global domination and next US, right?
Indeed.
Anna also loves choir singing, so maybe we do this by singing.
Oh, I would love to.
Maybe not. But hey, earlier we talked this week, and you said that the whole courage seems to be a bit frightening as a word. How come?
Yes, okay. So maybe I offer you my take on courage and how I want to see it. And there was this phrase, trust yourself, on this event. And I think, yeah, you need to trust yourself. You need to love and have faith on your product. You need to be super determined. And at the same time, you will feel so uncertain. And you need to have this healthy level of self-doubt every day. So I think it's just like such an odd mix of, good things and strange things that are included in courage.
A lot of uncertainties.
Yeah, and you need to live with that.
Yeah. When we're talking about the courage as such, and startups especially are usually talking about the leap of faith, as we have heard today many times. When was your moment to take the leap of faith when it comes to the Skipperi?
There have been many, but I think I'll share this one. So we had run Skipperi for 2 years. We had done the peer-to-peer boat rental side of things for a couple of years, and we wanted to try something else. We know that there is demand for it, the subscription-based boating service, but that required actually ordering real boats, like tangible, actual things. And it was frightening and really terrifying. And we had done our work. We knew that, there most certainly will be demand and paying customers for it. But when those, 11 boats came with this huge truck, and we, with background in software, we're looking at those things and like, what the?
What do you do with
What
those?
are we doing? So that was, I think, like our moment.
So what did you do then?
We put them on water.
And started selling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
We had actually sold most of them already. So
Okay.
yeah.
So not any more physical products in your assets.
No, now we have 400, so it doesn't feel. It doesn't feel that.
It was just
terrifying.
the beginning.
Yes, it was
Okay.
just the beginning. Yeah.
But when it comes to the I understood that the boating is always kind of a passion thing, and I understood that also the whole Skipperi was founded because of your and your fiancé's background on boating and sailing. But did you already have since the beginning the idea of being a global company, or was it just the thing that you will help your friends and families to get boating more easily?
Definitely had the global mindset from the beginning. Well, maybe a month when we were kind of thinking about the product, we thought about the Finnish market only, because we were almost calling the service Liplatus, like good luck taking that product outside of Finland. But
Liplatus.com.
Yeah, but after that we got pretty systematic. It's a global company. We got co-founders to join us from Sweden, so we're kind of forcing ourselves to think like it's not only for Finnish people, it's not in Finnish, but it is global, it's in English, and it will go beyond these boundaries.
Now I have to ask that when you had this first investor from Sweden, did you already have the product, or when did you go there as an opportunity like we heard today in the first speech?
We had a very shitty product.
But the big opportunity.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So that was good. What was the most challenging part in thinking about it as a global thing in the beginning?
I think thinking something global from the beginning is much easier than going in a setting where you have a company that has done Finnish market for 20 years and then you try to change that mindset. I think that is really, really difficult. But thinking something from the very scratch is actually pretty easy. But being systematic, also tech side thinking like we want to build this from scratch, so we know that we can do whatever we want with this product was another thing. The global mindset where I struggle now is maybe try to detach yourself from being in Finland and being closest to the Finnish service and the Finnish operations. And in the management team, we try to always say, like, when we start our day, Finland is last. You think all the other markets first, and then if you have time to focus on Finland. But you very easily, you have the Finnish customer serving next door. So of course, you know that people best. You're easy to help them first, but kind of trying to change that then. Try to think yourself as the HQ is in Moon. You have all the countries are the same. But I think that is something that is a bit difficult.
Let's talk a few words about the product market fit. Of course, now in the beginning you were positioned here, and it was easy to test the product, and But your first market outside Finland was
Sweden. I'm sorry. Yeah.
How did you test the product market fit then?
Well, I want to start saying like I want to talk more about maybe the fleet service and kind of how we built that one, because I think that is an interesting story. So when we had run the peer-to-peer platform for a couple of years, we started noticing that there is a really high demand for like a medium-sized motorboat that you can take out for a couple of days in the afternoon after work or on Saturday mornings or whatnot. And the peer-to-peer platform didn't really respond to that demand very well. Like we wanted, like, what is the smoothest way, the most efficient way to meet this demand for quick day boats, like quick boating after work or something. And we started designing like what could meet this need. And of course, we had a good lead list from our platform of members. So we started kind of asking them like, okay, if you would have this service, what kind of boats would you want to have in it? And so we kind of did this, like we designed something like booking rules, then we went to the lead list and asked like, would this work? Like, what's your opinion on it? And then we went back to the design table. And in the end, we had the product ready, and then we asked like, do you pay for it? Because now you can.
Yeah.
And then majority of them did, and they had been part of the design process all the way. And to some extent, we do the same when we go to new markets. So we start collecting lead lists before we have anything ready, before we have even decided that we're really going to open this market. And of course, we do our studies. We can compare which cities are best, which countries should we expand to, and then we start collecting leads, sending out surveys, asking and taking them along to this exciting kind of design path. And then, of course, we have the local team. We use their knowledge. And then we do a pilot with something that is, you know, as I said, we had a shitty product in the first year. And I think it's just so important to get people to buy. Like, even if we ask and we have a lead list of 2,000 people saying that I'm interested, but how many of those are actually going to pay 2,000 euros for that service? So you need to get to that point super fast. Yeah. Have the sales funnel ready, make them pay, and then you know that you will have the demand.
One of the hot topic in scaling the markets is always that how much you need to adjust your product or service into a local needs and local things. I would assume that boating is one of those things, that every culture has a different ways of, you know, doing things. So how much you need to adjust? You're now in 6 countries. So.
Yes. We do some adjusting, starting, of course, with the boats. We need to, you know, the Yamarines would be an odd site maybe in Toronto, but we always take the local boat. We ask what boat would they prefer, what kind of is the most popular boat that feels familiar to the potential members. So we kind of start designing from that. And then it is really during the pilot year when we have actual data on how people are using the service. So we are connected, our boats are connected. We all the time know where they are going, how they are used, how much time people are spending out on water, how much in advance do they book the boat. So we collect the tons of data, and we can then start kind of following like, okay, so in this market, let's take Canada, for example, they take really short boat trips. So for next year, I think we will try to have 3 slots instead of 2. Because that makes sense. Okay. And in Finland, you know, the evening shift goes all the way up to the next morning because people want to go camping on islands. That doesn't happen in New Zealand. It's pitch dark. They want to go outing after 6. So you kind of adjust those things. Yeah. But the best way is to get real data on real customer behavior and then do the tweaking.
Yeah, you collect a lot of data. And I understand that you also do a lot of development of your product and service through your own customers, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So there's like a pilot group or...
We survey our members a lot, and of course we meet them a lot on peers, and we get we have very active members, and they give a lot of feedback, whether we always want it or not, we get it. And so, of course, I think there is... how do I say it in a nice way? The members don't always know what they really want. Yeah. So if you go and ask and only base your decision on that, it will go wrong. Like if you ask what kind of boat I want the biggest boat, and how will you use it? I will be out all day, Saturday. And then you look at the data that they didn't pick the biggest boat, they are taking the medium-sized boat, and they are out exactly for 4 hours. And so, you know, listen to the members, but also look at the data and find a way to make things happen.
Yeah, good. Talking about a bit of a scaling, and one of the things in scaling is important that you don't do the same mistakes all over again. So how do you make sure that you are not repeating the mistakes?
We don't. We repeat the mistakes. I'm sorry, this is going to be a super like corporate answer, but yeah, you have processes, you have structure, and you have playbooks. And when you
But now we're talking in real life, not in
yeah,
the
no,
corporate terms.
this is real life. So of course we have developed a lot of things to support the launch. And when the launch has taken place, we do interviews, we do surveys to the whole company. How did that go? What did we learn? And then we feed that information back to the playbooks. And maybe next time we don't do that mistake. We will do tons of new ones, but maybe not that same one. But maybe another dimension to this is a bit related to the motivation that was discussed here earlier. And I don't know if we want to avoid all the mistakes. And this comes a bit to, so we are an HQ and we have now run this business for 7 years. So we think that we know this pretty well. And at the same time, we don't think we have the best product yet to meet the boating need of people. Maybe there is even something better, and maybe the operations can be run even more efficiently than what we are doing now. So we don't want to go to a new country and say that here are all the answers, and this is the way you're going to do it, because we don't think that it is necessarily so. So you want them to also take ownership over their own country and operations and way of working. So you want to kind of, boat covers is a great example. Think that we discuss with every new country, and they say that we will have the boat covers on the boat after every shift. And we say, you probably won't have it because it doesn't work. It's such a hassle. Customers hate it. And then with 2 countries, we had this lastly with Canada, and they said that, but in here, people really need to have boat covers. And in the end, we are just like, okay, go, do you know? And then 2 weeks' time, say, like, we're going to ditch the boat covers. Like, it doesn't work. And you're just like, yeah, well, maybe you had to learn that yourself. Yeah. Like, maybe it's not enough that we say it. So, and avoid your, I told you so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you are not also strict that this is the only way, this is the skippery way, you do it? Or,
yes. In some things, yes, but we try to keep that in minimum.
Are you still kind of feeling a bit afraid when opening a new country, or?
Terrified.
Terrified.
Yes, I think, and then I think I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah. But now it's great time to also. I think one of the most important things is to learn from the mistakes or the past experiences. So now you can tell us greatest fuck up of what you did with your countries.
See, I really cannot say just one.
Pick one of the best ones.
No, I think my fuck ups are mostly always kind of tied to the time constraints or some detail that I missed. But I think I want to say more like people in any company, especially in consumer services, like the past years, like, you prepare, and we had a great playbook 2020 to go open 3 countries at the same time, Norway, Denmark, New Zealand. And then COVID came, we couldn't travel, playbooks out of the window, you're gonna go shoot from the hip again and try to make the best out of it. And then comes the war, and member behavior changes drastically. And I don't know how to prepare for that, but I think I'm now more prepared. Like, I'm just expecting what's gonna hit us next. And we're gonna take it from there. And of course, what it does, the positive thing is it forces you to innovate. Like, you have to figure something out. During the COVID, we had the baseline from 2019, like how people boat and use the service, the pilot year. And then suddenly people had nothing else to do than boat.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Like unit economics just crashed, and we had to okay, so now we need to do this. And then, you always get a way to respond to it some way. It makes you innovative.
Yeah. So don't be too satisfied.
Yeah.
Because you know that there will be something.
Yeah, don't expect it to go smoothly. It won't.
Yeah. What would be your top three pieces of advice for other growth companies, kind of when they are planning their expansions internationally?
Yes. I think I sent them. Maybe if I can see them, maybe I was smarter than I am today. Just maybe. Yeah. Well, maybe I said some of it, but it starts with one. So you need to have a driver, someone that is 100% or 120% focused on expanding and taking the company out of Finnish borders. But that won't be enough. That person will very soon be very unhappy if all her or his time goes into fighting internally with other employees, of other business directors, or with the board members. Does it make sense? As I said, we had a global mindset from the scratch, so it was pretty easy. We recruit people to a growth company, and we all have that mindset. But especially if that's not the case, and this is a new thing that an established company does, I would really take a pause and make sure that the whole company aligns behind that mission of expanding, because it will take time and money and a lot of headache. And this one, I think I said already, we had a shitty product when we went, but we got customers. We got such a good insight and data on how they behave and could make such a better product for next year. So don't wait too long. Just get your product out there, sell it, even though it's not fully ready. And then the last one, now I know that I just said that we open Sweden first, so I have very little credibility on this, but when you look at markets, just compare, make sure that you have data from enough markets or cities or whatever it is that you look at as an expanding unit, and take the one that makes sense. I mean, Sweden is not a safe choice, and it takes money to fail in Sweden, so you might as well use that money someplace else. So, I just don't take it as a default.
Yeah.
Or even Nordics.
Yeah. Very good. Do you know actually what is common with you and Mika Valtari?
No.
Mika Valtari wrote a Sinuhe book without never being in Egypt, and you launched Skippere without never being in New Zealand, right?
Yes, I've never visited.
I think that's quite of a thing. Very good. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hey, thank you for all of you to participate in the event. It's been a very fruitful discussions, but also super good keynotes today. At least I took a lot of things from pitching, not potentially the innovation or the product, which I have lost the money but more about the opportunity and kind of a showing that there is a huge demand on this one. So I think that was at least a great learning for me. Especially we Finns are very obsessed with our innovations and products, and we try to tend to make them as good as get. And Anna-Leena just told that even the shitty product in the beginning or shitty service in the beginning was not the obstacle of being scaling it globally. So I think that's a great example of that. One of the things Jyri pointed out, who is the winning person when figuring out the idea? I think that's always a mentality of an entrepreneur that needs to always think and put yourself into those shoes. And especially these turbulent times, I think it's also a great moment to really take advantage of these crises. There's a lot of crises, unfortunately, happening in the world right now, but we as a growth entrepreneurs, we have the opportunity to really zig when the others are zag, if I could use that cliche term. I love the idea of business eating the innovation for breakfast, although the breakfast is one of the most important meals of the day. I learned that today also, but I think that's the kind of the mentality that we can't be just innovating if there is no business involved, and those goes hand in hand. Minna pointed out that be true your values. I really love it because I mean it should be a question of when you are getting into a new work or a new place to work. So we also as an entrepreneurs, we should be talking about them, but also live through the values. And you also mentioned that the board role, that they need to have also the soft skills to be hard. So that's a nice way to put it. And one of the things also mentioned in a couple of talks today was that the companies are like the owners. So they are really looking. So when you're thinking about your own company or your own brand, it's actually what you are representing yourself. So remember that when you're doing silly stuff. I think that's kind of the many things that I took away today. I still want to give you a few things before we end up here or go for the bubbly stuff. Boardman Grow is actually looking for 2 new board members to be actually starting next year. So there is an application that you can find from Boardman Grow website. So go and apply. It's a very nice thing to do. You might end up here to host events. That would happen to me, but you should go there. And then what else I needed to do? Thank Taina for making almost all of this happen. Let's give a round of applause. And of course, Julia taking care of all the communications and marketing, and our technical guys and partners and Innovation Home and you guys. Thank you. Enjoy the bubbling.